go through the troubleshooting tips and tricks for Dynamics 365, formerly known as retail, now known as the commerce product. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Before starting, I want to introduce myself. I'm Ahmet Ziya Yıldırım. I'm living in Istanbul, Turkey. I've been working for Microsoft since 2016 as formerly a senior premier field engineer and newly a senior customer engineer. I've been in IT since 2007 and nearly I have 10 years experience over as technical architect and a developer in Dynamics markets. Let's quickly jump today's agenda. What we will see, I prepared many contents, so I try to be really quick to show you and to give the more value. So first, I begin with the system architecture today. I try to highlight the important points and newly changed about the retail architecture. And then we will talk about the data, the importance of the data when you are troubleshooting, especially about the performance parts. Then we go to the latency part, in order to of course, the latency between the POS and the commerce servers, formerly known as the retail server, how we can simulate issues and how we can measure the latency. And then we go with the retail servers, aka commerce server API timings, how we can measure our API timings and what can we do in the sense of performance. And after that, we go behind the scenes and under the hood, how we can look inside the retail server, the CRT calls and the SQL with the Commerce Runtime Analyzer tool, which is a very interesting tool developed by the Retail Product Group. And it's available upon your request. And then I will go through the event viewer and the LCS log search part, which will be the longest and the most emphasized part section of today. I think that will be the most useful part also for your daily troubleshooting life. And at the end, I also put a sample case, and I also put the steps how I can, you can troubleshoot the issue step by step. And finally, I will share the resources that I use for this presentation, and it may be come in handy when you are doing the troubleshooting. And we will finalize today's session with the Q&A part. So let's quickly jump into the system architecture. I have more than one slides. I will try to go from a higher to the lower, more detail. The first one is the Dynamics 365 Commerce. I also see prior to this session, I see a question: is there any difference between the Dynamics 365 Retail or the Commerce? From the technical sides, it's still the same product, but the branding is changed and also some new actors in our product range. So in the sense of a branding and the coverage of the product, it's a little bit broader, but from the technical side, nearly everything is same. I can say that. The system architecture now, the most challenging part of the retail, I can say that the changing names and changing actors. For example, now we call the cloud scale units as the cloud scale units. Formerly, we call as the retail cloud scale unit and retail store scale unit, but now we call both as cloud scale units. And there are still in-store installable cloud scale unit. And as you've seen here, these are the retail cloud scale units, which means consist of the retail server, cloud POS, the channel DB, and async clients. These 4 components come together and build up the retail cloud scale unit, actually. This is what this gives us. In a brief sense, I can say that it's isolate the retail workload and the ERP workload. So when you run MRP on your ERP sites, it's not affecting the workload, the retail workload, and vice versa. When you do some retail statement posting jobs, it's not consuming the valuable resources of the ERP site. So that's one of the main reasons for the cloud scale units. So after that, I want to also show you the component architecture. After the deployment architecture and this component architecture, you can see that we have in-store components. You are familiar with that, I guess. The Cloud POS, the iOS, the modern POS with offline DB. If you will use the offline DB, you have to use the modern POS. You can't use it with Cloud POS. We have the iOS POS and the Android POS as well. So also now we have, as you know, the storefront e-commerce client. It's used the web storefront, but please pay attention to that. They both, the e-commerce client, all other clients are connecting to the commerce scale units. And on the background, they are the commerce scale unit communicating with the commerce AI, the customer insights, as you've seen in the morning sessions, the fraud protection as well. These are all actually interacting with the commerce scale units. And as you see, the back office, the HQ sites, when you're doing the statement posting and all operations, interact with the back office part. So this is a brief explanation about the component architecture. And then let's look at quickly the choosing the right in-store topology. So if you want to see this poster in detail, you can go for the aka.ms/retail in-store topology. This is really, really valuable and important poster. I suggest actually, I want to stress that before rollouting your store implementations, please visit this and choose your store topology upon this explanation or upon these suggestions. You are starting from here, and if you have no connectivity issues, if you have good internet connectivity, and if you have good in-store connectivity, you can use this one, the zero footprint MPOS or CPOS with the cloud scale unit. As you see, you don't have to install anything additional, so you can use this. I won't go to details of this poster as well, but I want to show you something. If you have any connectivity issue, if you need anything additional to support your in-store topology, I want to highlight that you may need to install an additional channel DB. So as you see that nearly beside the zero footprint option, in all other options you need you may need another channel DB. So when we say the channel DB, an additional channel DB, for those who are not aware of it, when you first go with the, let's say, only the CPOS or the MPOS zero footprint topology, you will only have one channel DB and one default data group. So in this case, even if you want to create a new channel data group, you can't create it. So you will stick with one channel data group. But why I'm emphasizing this? Because one of the most important things when you are troubleshooting the issues begin with the data parts. So when you design wisely, when you pay attention to the design of your the business processes, especially from the data perspective, then even if you have some code defects or some other issues, then it still can be bearable. But when the data is not handled with care, then you can easily be in trouble. So one of the most important thing is rationalize your data in order to keep your data sets small. What this means, keep complexity low on your product category hierarchies, attributes, pricing, discounts, and etc. And secondly, assortments, product count, customer count can impact heavily performance. Let's say you have one assortment. That means the same data everywhere. You have one assortment and you're sending all assortments. You may have 10,000 products in one assortment and you're sending all data to all stores. But instead, you may have 200 assortments. Then it means a lot of processing and filtering. So this is also tricky from the performance point. So you have to find the balance number for your environments. Maybe you can use the trial and error methods, but you have to choose wisely when you're planning your data. For the data configuration, the full data sync is also another important part. When you kick the full data sync operation, this can be really a resource monster. It can easily consume your valuable resources. So only necessary for if you have new channel DB and should not be used otherwise. So if you ask yourself, yeah, I'm not sure that, and let's kick the full data sync, then this is also consuming, besides consuming the valuable resources of your environment, also it's defragmenting your indexes and your table data. So that's also important for your CDX jobs and their speeds. So another thing, the commerce data exchange, the upload and download jobs, use separate data group for one to several channel DBs. Of course, if you are not using the zero footprint, only CPOS methodology for the other ones, to reduce the redundant data, you can use the separate data groups, and you can send the only necessary data to the store, not the all price groups, all the other products. Data group generation, so it's the separate data and separate also the offline DBs and use advantageous data groups. So from other perspective, when you look at it, each record relates to one physical database. As you see here, we have one channel database and we have one channel database group. For offline databases, even we can create our own channel database group. So we can actually, please note how each record to channel DB and offline DB can have a different channel database group, and we can isolate the data. This is the screenshot that I took from the application. You can see that this is the channel DB, channel database, and this is the channel database screen. So from there, now we can come to the latency parts. Latency between POS and the cloud scale units. So this is another architectural view of the application. Now we are going more detail. We are now looking inside the components, what's in it. In a high-level conceptual model of the commerce solution, on the top of the diagram here, we have the commerce clients, POS, and the web storefront, Cloud POS, MPOS, and this is where orders, shopping carts originate, and the primary experience for commerce users or store employees for the POS and the consumers for e-commerce. On the bottom of the diagram, we have the commerce headquarters where we manage orders, master data, and the example products, price, inventory, customer profile. And in the middle, we have the commerce server, which is a dedicated service for the commerce clients that executes business logics and keeps a cache of business data and transaction in order to maintain performance and business continuity. So I want to say you now the commerce runtime, this business logic, the commerce server, formerly known as the retail server. As you see, in order to interact with the headquarter parts, you have to use the commerce clients have to use this commerce server. You can also write your own commerce clients. Maybe you can write your own storefront application, or you may have your own iOS or Android application. These apps also can interact with the retail server, the commerce server, and by the help of it, you can create your own integrations. I remember this kind of question when we are doing integrations. This is the one of the if you are planning to make an integration like an API wise, then the retail server, commerce server, it's an out-of-box API. So you can manipulate the data on the headquarters or on the channel DB by the help of the commerce server. So after that, I want to come to the point where the latency can happen. So for the latency happen, we need to communicate between the POSes, the commerce clients, CPOS and modern POS, and between the retail server, the commerce server. As we mentioned in the beginning, now the retail server, commerce server, inside the cloud scale units. So let's look at the cloud scale units deployed models. These are the scenarios that you can apply for the store technologies, store topologies, or your general topology. The first one is the zero footprint, zero deployment. As you see, we have the cloud POS register. It's communicating with network addressable peripherals. It's using the Cloud POS website, and it goes directly to the Microsoft Cloud. No additional components needed for that. On the backends, on the Microsoft Cloud, we have the retail server, commerce server, Cloud POS, and the channel database, all hosted in Microsoft Clouds. In store, we only have the browser, and we have only the Cloud POS running in this browser. So after that, we have the cloud scale unit deployed in store architecture. As you see now, we have this in-store cloud scale units, formerly known retail store scale units. Now we have the retail server, retail channel DB, and async client in it. And in this scenario, the modern POS interact with this inside the store. It's installed in store, and after that, it's the cloud scale units, the retail store scale unit communicating with the Microsoft Cloud in this sample. So this is the second scenario. It can be so there can be a little or not latency because we are in the store. In the previous one, we have the Cloud POS, and we have the we are trying to reach the Microsoft Cloud. So if there is a latency between our stores and Azure data center, we have to measure it. In this one, this is the less latency between, because they're all installed in the store. But there can be a latency between the retail store scale unit and the headquarters site. And in our another version of the deploy of the cloud scale unit, now instead of in store, we are installing our retail store scale unit, cloud scale unit into the private cloud. It could be either our private data center. It's a data center more than anything than the Azure data center. So we have the components still here, and some stores, or maybe the old stores, connecting this one, and we can create additional scenarios that There could be more than one private cloud. Please also bear in mind that each store scale unit installation means another retail channel DB, and then you have to manage separately the data group of it. So that's from the data perspective, it's also important. Also, I want to also say that if you are using this one, maybe some of you ask that. So like in the private cloud, don't we have a chance to install the cloud scale units? It's actually, as I show you in the first slides, you remember here are the cloud scale units in different regions. So if you have different stores around the world, you can still use the cloud post with zero footprint option, and you can have more than one cloud scale units, and you can use for your stores. So this is important when you are choosing the right topology for your environment. This is also something very important before actually doing the troubleshooting. If you're not architecting right your deployments, then whatever you do, you will be still in trouble. So that's important. So physical separation, there's always going to be a physical separation between the server, the commerce server, and the client, the modern POS and cloud POS browser instance. If the physical distance is large, every retail server call will incur a larger additional latency. There is no code change that can fix this. A redeployment of cloud or client components will be needed to lower the value. So how to measure the latency in the cloud scale units in Microsoft's cloud scenario? First, as I said, you have to find out where is your data is, where is your components installed, where the Azure data center, your cloud scale unit is hosted. You can use the LCS environments as I put here. You can go and look where is, for example, in my case, it's the West Europe region. You can look directly from the LCS, or you can ask your IT admin to find out where it is. And then in the second step, you can go to the azurespeed.com, and on here, you can open an internet browser and browse to azurespeed.com. Check out correct Azure region or a few on the same area. This web page will tell you the latency from your computer to the data center the cloud scale unit is hosted. So it's very important to use the same computer as the store terminal, as sometimes customers use a dedicated network for the store terminals, and the computer in the back office may be on a different network. So in my example, as you see here, you can see I get a latency about 62 milliseconds for every commerce server call. That's a very good value actually for the particular single store. But it may have been better to use United Arab Emirates Central, UAE Central, for example, to get an even better response. So, of course, the choice should be balanced between all different stores that use this commerce server cloud scale unit instance. So you want to do more. Maybe you are talking with a private cloud, and you want to see where's the latency coming from, where I suffer from. So if you want to go deep dive, you can use the free of charge trace route commands. It will list all the routers it passes through until it reaches its destination or fails to and is discarded. So you can easily run it from the start, programs, accessories, from the command prompt. And when you write the trace and space, and after the space, if you write the your private cloud address for your cloud scale units commerce server address, you can trace it. For example, in this one, you see there are each of 3 columns are response from the router. and how long it took. As you see, each hop, these lines called as hops, and each hop is tested 3 times. For example, in line 2, the first try took 240 milliseconds, and the second took 421 milliseconds, and the third took 70 milliseconds. You will notice that the line 4 timeouts, there was no response from the router, so another one was tried just under it, and which was successful. So you will also notice the time is took quadrupled while passing through the global gateway network. This is extremely useful when trying to find out why a website, why your commerce server is unreachable, as you will able to see where the connection fails. If you have a website hosted somewhere, it will be a good idea to trace route to it when it's working. So when it fails, you can do another trace route to it, which will probably time out if the website is unreachable, and compare them. Be aware though that it will be probably take a different route each time, but the networks it passes through will generally be very similar. If the example above here you see had continued to time out after, let's say, line 9, you could suspect the global gateway.co.nz was the problem and not the mediacollege.com. If it's timeout after line 1, you would know there was a problem connecting to your ISP. In this case, you would not be able to access anything on the internet. So this tool is also important for detailed analysis. So let's jump to the retail server API timings as seen from pose. What can we do for that? The first thing first, what can we do? We can use the browser developer tools. How we can use it? When you just hit the F12 button, if you are running in the browser, then you can use this tool automatically. When you do the calls, you will see the screen like in the right-hand side. There may be some APIs that appear slower than others. And to find out if you are using CPOS, you can just hit the F12 button and use this. In this scenario, I'm running the CloudPost logon sequence on the same computer that I measured the latency above from, and I get these timings. Depending which scenario is slow, focus on these and see what exact commerce server, retail server calls are the culprits. Then move on the next step to find out why. By the way, I'm not too worried about the login takes, as it's usually not a very frequent operation. This may be different for some customers that configure, let's say they configure a log off after each transaction or after a certain time, then that's definitely an issue for them. But in general, I would focus on the top 5 customer scenarios that I take from them. So this is for the CPOS. What about the MPOS, the modern POS? You may want to use the Fiddler for a Fiddler tool for the MPOS to measure the API timings. You can also use for the CloudPost as well. You can download it from the fiddler2.com, and when you want to measure and when you want to see the API calls between the CPOS, MPOS to commerce server or commerce server to real-time service communication. I just want to give you a tip here. From the right-click on the Fiddler screen, when you right-click and customize columns, you select from the context menu, select customize columns, and add the collection session timers overall elapse. By the help of this, you can see the overall elapse times when the API calls happens, and by the help of it, you can see the exact timings. And another tip here, remove the connects lines from the delete menu here, you see, because these connect lines actually not meaningful when you are doing the API measurements or when you are troubleshooting for the network. So you can also, after take the trace, you can do this and remove the connects. Here I want to show you a retail server communication from CPOS to retail server communication screenshot from the Fiddler. Here you can see all the taken API, retail server request URL, the JSON body. If you go to the statistics tab, you can find the details of the overall time passed, where it's passed, when the response begin or the request begin. It spans time where you can find these answers. So let's say one of the stores telling you that we have network issues and you can't connect them remotely, and you want to simulate the network issues in order to see what's this store experimenting. So there's another free of charge tool, Clumsy. You can download it from here. And when you, let's say, you select the lag function and let's say delay 1 second, it's a really much time. And then if you simulate this, I made, for example, sample here. I do the smoke test for the commerce server. And in the beginning, in the first one, it's without this tool running. As you see, it's nearly under 1 seconds. And when I run this tool, you can see I can create the latency, the lag, and I can see where this time spans here. This is, as I said, in some cases, it's very useful to see how a website would perform under certain network conditions that are worse than what you have currently. So you can use this tool to simulate this kind of issues. So another thing is, another hot topic today, looking inside the retail server, commerce server, the CRT SQL with Commerce Runtime Analyzer. So here you can see the tool. As I said, the retail product team built a tool that can be used to trace the retail server calls, CRT, Commerce Runtime Executes, and the SQL calls. It shows call stack-like information based on event traces, similarly to the Dynamics 365 trace parser. For whom not know the Dynamics 365 trace parser tool, I'm the customer engineer, Premier Field Engineers. In the performance reviews, we are using trace parsers. It's also anyone. It's this trace parser tool comes with the product, can use this. It's creates ETL files. It creates traces, and inside these traces, you can make end-to-end analysis. It covers both the code execution, the call stack, and also the SQL queries that executed. So you can see that where this code execution spends most of the time, or what's wrong with your code, or what's wrong with the generated SQL queries. So this tool, the Commerce Runtime Analyzer, it serves as a retail version of this Dynamics 365 trace parser tool. So this tool can be used to find slow handlers, slow SQL, or just understand what's happening as a part of a call. As usual, a picture says more than 100 words. Let's see my investigation of slow performance of the update cart lines retail server call here. From the call stack, I can learn this. Flow includes a lot of other internal steps. As you see, get identity, get cards, get products, get unit of measures, calculate discounts, calculate sales tax, calculate totals, final saving of the transaction, SQL, and much more. This is very valuable information and can be obtained with the Commerce Runtime Analyzer without reflecting the source code actually. So I noticed that, for example, in this sample, I noticed that calculate cart required reason code service request takes 2021 milliseconds. When I add up the included child timings, there is a full 2 seconds missing. This is my own customization for this sample. I have added a 2 seconds delay in an extended handler. So I just want to showcase how you can see this tool works. In another scenario, to find out what the CRT logic is using, I run a product search, and the tool lets me know the data for the 62 results row comes from. I know that it's coming from the store procedure, CRT, get product search result by text underscore version 2. So I can go to my dev box and make further analysis to see what's happening. So last words about this tool. This tool is not perfect, but at this time, it's not seemed to show custom handlers properly. If the retail team gets enough requests, I'm sure this could be an easy addition to make to the product. So as we, the retail technical guys and ladies, we need especially this kind of tools to make this troubleshooting easier. I put the Andreas Hoffman from the product group, R&D solution architect. When you drop a mail from this link to him, he can provide you the commerce analyzer, runtime analyzer tool in a compressed version. So now we come to the events viewer and LCS log search parts. So that will be the most excited part, how you can use for your daily life troubleshooting. So the first thing first, how we can find the commerce specific events in the event viewers. If you are just begin with the retail and if you want to troubleshoot, of course, you can't reach this event viewer in the production. And after the near time, there will be also remote desktop RDP lockdown will come to the UAT environment as well. But till that time, you can go and look at the event viewer on the UAT environments. But what I'm showing this is actually for the production environment, it's same data you will see in the LCS and the event viewer. So if you are familiar with the event viewer data, then you will be much more comfortable with the LCS log search. So where to go first? First go to the application and services log under Microsoft, and under it there's Dynamics. And under Dynamics we have two commerce specific event logs. One is the retail server, second modern POS, and the third one the logging provider. So each of them has different information. Some of them have the retail call, some of them have this CRT request, but all data for the troubleshooting you need it, you can find it. Just don't forget to go and enable log for the debug, because of the much of the data, it comes default not enabled. So you have to enable these logs. So correlating events. There are many logs everywhere, and how we can correlate these events and these numbers, and how we can do the troubleshooting. The first thing, the post client startup. When a user starts a post client, a new app session ID is generated, as you see here. The app session ID is used to log every event that is instrumented in the post client. All events that are logged to the event viewer and the app insights have this ID, the app session ID. Secondly, when the user sign in, when a user signs in into a post client, a new user session ID is generated. The user session ID is used to log every event that is instrumented in the post client. All user events that are logged to event viewer have this ID, and this ID is maintained for as long as the user is signed in. So when the current user signs out and the new user sign in, a new user session ID generated. So post clients calls the commerce scale units. Whenever a post client makes a call to the commerce scale unit, the app session ID and the user session ID are sent as headers, as request headers. Commerce scale unit then logs an event for the incoming requests. The event ID will be 5,000. So when you are filtering, you can filter for the event ID 5,000. This event includes two IDs and also an activity ID, as you see here. The activity ID is then also used for all related events. The app session ID, user session ID, and activity ID are available in the event log where commerce scale unit is hosted. They are also available in LCS log search as well. And finally, request activity in commerce scale unit. Every event that is logged as the part of commerce scale unit, request has the same activity ID as the initial event that was logged for the initial incoming request events. again, the event ID 5000. And again, these events are also available in the Event Viewer and LCS Log Search. So here you can see the app session ID and user session ID in the Details tab of the Event Viewer under the Modern POS log, as you can see here, where retail Modern POS installed. So you can go there and look at the details. In the Cloud POS, you have to press the cog button, and when you press the cog button, you will see there the application session ID and user session ID. When you are, I reserve as one slide when you are contacting with the support, what should you do? I will also cover this part on there. So another topic is to correlate data for incoming commerce scale unit request in Event Viewer. You must first enable the analytic channel. To enable it, you have to go to the Event Viewer, and in the left pane, as you see here under Commerce Retail Server, you have to go and click the View, Enable Analytic and Debug Log, and then go there and right-click on the analytic nodes, and then click Enable Log. So in Event Viewer, all incoming commerce scale unit requests are logged to the analytic channel of the Commerce Retail Server, and the source as event 5000. These events also have the app session ID and user session ID that were described earlier, as I described. And every event also has a unique activity ID that is instrumented for every logged event for the same request. So in my sample, I will also show you how you can find the activity ID and how you go and paste it to the LCS and you find the details of this specific activity. So I also want to show you, you can see in this analytic view which store procedures are executed, and you can reach out the much more data from the execution of the retail server. So if we leave aside the Events Viewer, let's pass to the LCS Log Search. What components data we can find in the LCS Log Search? We can find the retail modern POS, retail cloud POS, and the commerce scale units running on the retail cloud scale unit, not the store version. But please be aware that the now the channel DB is installed somewhere else in the cloud scale unit. As I said, the workloads are separate. If you are using the cloud scale units, then you have separate channel DB. But for the time being, you can't see the queries that are executed in the cloud scale units. For example, in the UAT environment, you can maybe use the SQL profiler tool in your dev boxes. But for the cloud scale unit executed queries, you can't use this tool. What are not included? The commerce layout designer, receipt designer, self-service installers, commerce scale units, the retail store scale units, and the retail hardware station are not included in the LCS Log Search. So how you can reach out to LCS Log Search? In LCS, go to the project details, under environment details, environment monitoring, and inside the environment monitoring, when you click the view raw logs, on the log search page, you will have you can select one of the following queries. One is the commerce client events, and second, all logs. So commerce client events for the modern POS, cloud POS, and the commerce scale units. And if you select the all logs, it's for the commerce scale units, commerce data exchange, CDX, and the real-time service. You can find these additional logs here. So you can filter by the following criteria, as you see here. So let's come to our scenario. Our error is MPOS throws an error on the screen saying something like real-time service call failed. So I go to the Event Viewer and look for an error or warning similar to the screenshot, as you see here. I copy the GUID about the real-time. This is the GUID. This is the important part. I copy the GUID about the real-time service URL. Note the datetime. Note the datetime. The error was created on the machine and converted to the UTC time. And then log into the LCS, select the customer projects, go to the row logs as we talked before, choose all logs and set start dates and the end dates. Sorry, set start date and end date to be a time before and after the time value you got from the event logs entry. In search terms field, enter the GUID value from the event logs that you copied before. This one, okay? And with 3FA. So come and paste it for the search terms and click search. When you when the results come to your screen, you should see something like HTTP 5000 error. 500 error. I put a scrap data here, for example. You will see something like that. Another shown here. On the second line, you can see this is the HTTP status 500 error. So what now I will do, I will focus on the activity ID. This activity ID is so important for me. So I take this activity ID from here. And now I locate the request that matches my error. I'm using the device ID, URL, and the time values have to correlate the issue, and then I copy the activity ID value. Now I turn back to the row logs, the all logs, and in the above example, the ID is the end with the D35. Now I paste it here, and on the search term fields, I remove the previous GUID and paste the new activity ID GUID and add a comma and enter the word exception as shown below, and click on the search button. This time, another screen comes to me, and when I search through the results, I can see something like this is in the exception message column indicating why your process failed. So you can now see the real exception message, why this real-time service call failed. So most of the time, maybe the end users, customers needs to create a ticket for this kind of errors because they can't find the real reason why this is happening. The only message they see, the real-time service call failed, but they can easily find the details of this real-time service call failed by using this approach actually. So also additionally, if you look at the method name column, you should be able to see the real-time service method was being called in the case. It was the new customer AXT method. So you can turn back to the application AX, the headquarter part, and you can deep dive into the X++ code to see why it's happening, why the real-time service failing. In this example, it was the number sequence already in use problem. So this is a real-time problem. And when we queried the cost table, it showed us this account num was already assigned. So when we tried to create a new customer in the accounts receivable module, we saw that it was trying to use the same number on a new record. So that was the issue. So that's concludes actually my sample scenario. And I want to finally talk about how you can if you want to get the most of it from the support. First of all, for the cloud posts, click the COC button and take the session information, application session ID, user session ID. And also with this information, when you are creating a ticket to the Microsoft site, when this happened, when exactly did it start? And if you can reproduce this issue, also note the exact time of the reproducing the issue. On the background, we have log system. So if you know the exact timing, we can go and look at these in our logs. The issue that occurred, and also what's the business impact of the issue? How many stores and terminals are affected? These are also important. This can be happened in some specific stores, some specific geography. As I show you, we have the cloud scale units. Maybe you are using more than one cloud scale unit, and some of them are problematic. This could be also the case. So if you want much faster resolution, then you may give more much broader explanation to the support professionals. So these are the resources that I use for this presentation, and also you can use it for more. The Andreas Hoffman's link you can find from the dynamicsnotes.com, and we have the docs information. I also put the Kurt Atlevik's blog post for the analyzing cloud post performance, and another also blog post for it's a really good. I like this approach to see what's happening behind the retail APIs. It's also showing how to use the tools and to go to do deep dive. So I also want to share with you the Dynamics AX in the field blog of us. You can find our all the customer engineers written content here. You can also find our service offerings. I mentioned about the performance review or code review. We have also other very valuable service offerings, and you can find there. If you are excited to be how it's like to be a premier field engineer or customer engineer, I put also another blog post here. And also, I put my latest blog post. Maybe it's important for you. That start-stop VMs. Now we have the stopping VM. We can schedule it, but how about starting and stopping it and scheduling it when you are using your dev boxes? So this blog post also covering this one. So I really thank you for listening to me till that part, till that time. So I know that it's a very intensive session, but I try to be add as much as possible troubleshooting scenarios, tools, and information in this limited time. I hope you like it. From the LinkedIn and also Twitter, you can add me, you can ask your questions, and I hope we will do additional sessions, and we can do talk more about retail specific topics.
Great, thanks, Ahmet. It's really interesting session. Like, I kind of really glued to it, each and every details you provided. I got massive notes I made as well. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Just one quick question from my end. You did mention about event logs, enabling event logs. So if the environments are cloud hosted, do we get that kind of access where we can just go and enable that event logs, or do we have to raise a ticket?
A good question. Your dev boxes, and as I mentioned, till to the point that RDP lockdown, which is expected at the end of this year, in the UAT environment, you still have access to the RDP and you can still see the event viewer. But for the production environment, you can see the event viewer. The event viewer exact information you can find in the LCS log search. So for the commerce log and the all row log, you can find the exact event viewer information. So no need to create ticket for that.
Fantastic. That's quite useful information. I'm just monitoring screen and chat window. We haven't got any particular question here. So Neil saying really solid session. Thanks a lot. Kishore saying great session. Thanks, Kishore. Ravinder saying nice session. Can you post the resources link in chat window? Ahmet, can you do that? Is that okay with you?
Yes, of course. As far as I know, we will share this presentation, right?
We haven't got that source yet, but if you can share the links at this stage, that would be great. We are working on the website where we can share all the resources, any source code we can provide from the demo. So we are absolutely working towards it, and hopefully we will align that. But currently, I think I would recommend another approach is for all the attendee. These sessions are getting recorded, so you can watch it on YouTube. Maybe just pause it, slowly just revise this session again, This is exactly I'm going to do because I need to listen into this session again. And then we got contact detail of Ahmet. So please fire off your question or let us know. And we will collect all the questions together and fire off in one go. So either way, it will work for me as well. So thank you. I'll give another minute or two if anyone has any question. Thanks, Ahmet, for posting for the links. I can see that it's in the chat window already.
Yeah, you're welcome. I can also share my contact information. So as well. Sure. So if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to me.